Yay, it's Saturday. And we're here. The Five is live 3 days before another big election day, Tuesday's battle for the East. While you were mowing your lawn, all three GOP candidates were out on the trail today saying all sorts of stuff.
I'm millions of votes more than Lion Ted Cruz. Millions. I'm millions of votes more than Kasich. Millions. I'm 300 delegates more, despite all his shenanigans with taking people to dinners. Cruz can't win with the voter. He can't. You saw what happened in New York. He got wiped out.
A vote for John Kasich is a vote for Donald Trump. John Kasich can't beat Donald Trump, but his presence in the state and his presence in the race helps Donald Trump. Donald Trump as the nominee guarantees Hillary Clinton will be the president.
You're going to go to a convention, nobody's going to have enough delegates, and they're going to look and determine two things. One, who can win in the fall, and two, who can be president of the United States. And that's why we continue to move forward.
Today, Trump's chief delegate strategist clarified remarks he made to the RNC this week about the frontrunner changing his delightful persona.
Nowhere was I talking about there being a different Donald Trump. What I was talking about was there being a different environment where different parts of the message would be presented in a way that was different from a campaign rally. So there would be no reason to change who is the man who's been probably the most effective modern communicator in politics, certainly since Ronald Reagan.
It's like Paulie from Goodfellas. Here's what Trump himself had to say about going from bad cop to good cop.
Paul was down in Florida, and he said, you know, Donald might be changing a little bit over a period of time, and maybe he'll tone it down, maybe he won't, but who knows what happens. I sort of don't like toning it down. Paul was talking about different things, and he said, yeah, Donald can be different if he's in a room. Of course, who isn't? When I'm in a room talking, you're one way. When I'm out here talking to you people, I got to be different, right? I mean, I can say basically the same thing. So Paul said, no, he's different when he's in a room, and then he goes out and speaks, it's different. And then if he gives policy, that's different. You know, we all have, like, with smart people, you act differently.
Fantastic. Meanwhile, Ted Cruz is still hitting the Trump campaign on the controversy.
In the Trump circus, Donald Trump is the master illusionist. He is the Harry Houdini, engaged in an act of misdirection. Trump is a phony. And I will give him credit. He's telling us he's a phony. He's telling us he's lying to us. And by the way, the only reason that we know that his campaign manager, the Washington lobbyist, said it's all an act, he's faking it, is because someone tape recorded that conversation.
So, Dana, did Trump just say his new campaign guy is not the boss of him?
I was thinking about that. So this is a new relationship. And so, like Corey Lewandowski and Trump, I think were very much in sync. And I actually kind of feel bad for them because the team that brought Donald Trump to where he is today, actually Donald Trump obviously being in the lead, there's these stories that they're being pushed aside and that Paul Manafort is trying to bring some more order to the delegate process, which the campaign obviously needed. But you can imagine that if you don't know somebody all that well for many years, when you're trying to figure out a way to reset a campaign and to put it on a path, what does everybody call it last week, that it's a more mature path, there's going to be a little bit of tension. I thought that when you watch Donald Trump, like, it's funny, and he's probably right. Yeah. He doesn't need to change that much. There are a lot of things, as we said last week, like, I don't love the very effective use of destroying your opponents by calling them names. I can't stand it. That's not for me. I know it's worked for him, but I think that maybe that's one of the things that Manafort was trying to say, is that we're going to try to make this look a little bit more presidential. I don't know if Donald Trump even needs to worry about that.
Yeah, Eric, should he stay a caterpillar or turn into a butterfly or just stay right in the middle?
No, I
prefer the caterpillar.
I think what happened, I like what he's done, but because he's been the outsider. He said, I'm saying it the way it is, and that really has resonated with the voters and the people and the organic growth of the campaign. But remember what happened between now and a month ago. All these unbound delegates were suddenly being taken by Ted Cruz, and no one saw it coming. And Trump said, you know, I didn't see that part, and I didn't really understand that. And they did the group that you're talking about, Hope and Corey Lewandowski and whatnot. They did a great job getting him here, but they weren't seeing that that trick that Ted Cruz's ground game was picking up delegates, even though they hadn't gotten them in the election, in the primaries and the caucuses. So Trump brings on Manafort, who's a pro at this. So now I honestly think they have all the bases covered. If he wants to go, don't forget, after the last primary when New York win, he came out and gave a very he didn't use Lion Ted. He didn't use any of those. He used Senator Cruz.
But he used it the next morning.
Right, right.
13 hours.
So he can literally, like you said, he can be the caterpillar. He can be the butterfly. He can pivot if he has to. He doesn't need to.
The chrysalis.
But I do think that the rest of the group has to kind of, at some point, look, if Donald Trump is going to be the nominee, or to be the one pretty darn close to 1237. Isn't it time to start saying, let's get behind him so we don't hand this thing over to Hillary Clinton? The Never Trump crowd, the Never Trump PACs and money and group is spending so much money to take Trump down. I'm turning that to Hillary. How about never Hillary?
But the hard thing is, it's hard to do that if that very same campaign has been trashing you. It's like, you know, he's been calling people names, and then you got to get behind him. But you made a good point while we were watching this.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a name for Kasich. He calls Lion Ted, but he doesn't have a name for John. What does that tell you?
He's not going to come up with a name for John.
Why is that, KG?
Oh, wait, he did make fun of his last name.
You want to go for it?
Yeah, I'm just telling you, he's not going to. And when you're at the debates, actually, like the Fox News one that we had in Detroit, there's no animosity between the two of them. They're very friendly before, during the breaks, after, and I don't think he's going to burn that bridge. Ohio is too important. And, you know, yes, John Kasich make a fantastic president. He would. He absolutely would. So he's got the skill set and the experience all together. So to me, I think he's a huge asset in the Republican Party, and I don't think you want to burn that. There's no need for him to, especially, look, if I were Trump, I would go, hey, would be honored to have you as my vice president. I'm not saying Kasich's interested in that. He says he's not, but...
Juan, I got to ask you, because what Cruz had said about Trump, it is kind of a historical first where a campaign says it's an act. I mean, what if somebody said that about, if Sanders got the nomination and says, look, I'm not really a socialist, okay? I'm actually a free market thinker. I mean, the people would go, their heads would explode.
Yeah, but right now, I think what Eric said is on target. You know, what his performance as the outsider has resonated with the Republican base. That's who's voting for him. I mean, to me, I'm like stunned. I can't believe it. The guy has no policy prescriptions. He changes back and forth on things. The bathroom stuff in North Carolina, I think he's abandoned the conservatives there. So it just strikes me like, well, exactly who is he? I don't think he's the Republican Party. And really, I think that's the big news of the week. You had the Republicans gathering down in Florida. That's where Paul Manafort spoke. And the idea that Paul Manafort was trying to communicate was Trump will raise money for candidates. He'll raise money for the party. He'll be loyal to the party.
He'll be a good vehicle.
But, gee, you listen to Reince Priebus, and Reince Priebus is worried. Reince Priebus, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, he's worried that, in fact, one, Trump won't be loyal to the party. He's loyal to the Trump brand, which is something distinct from conservatism or Republican Party. And two, there are people in the party who still will not vote for Donald Trump, and they're in large numbers. So Priebus and Trump are saying, hey, let's unite. We need to come together. Can we find a way to make peace? And that's why Manafort was holding out that olive branch. He was trying to say, hey, I know you didn't like what you saw from Trump earlier, but that's not the real Donald Trump.
We have some sound on tape from Rents talking about the Never Trump movement. Let's go for that.
Politics is a team sport, and we can't win unless we rally around whoever becomes our nominee. The rules say you have to have 1,237 delegates to be the nominee. We aren't going to hand a nomination to anyone with a plurality, no matter how close they get to 1,237. You need a majority. And as the old phrase goes, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Dana, thoughts on this lovely Saturday?
I was thinking about Reince Priebus today as like Stretch Armstrong. Remember that toy? And you could pull him in this direction and pull him in that direction, because he did say we're sticking with 1237. That's the rule. But then he also said to the Never Trump movement, like look, you guys better figure this out and back off and think about uniting behind whoever the front runner is. So if you were Ted Cruz, you probably like the 1237 comment. If you're the Trump people, you probably like him saying that we're going to have to unite, and that if it becomes inevitable that you're going to have Donald Trump as your nominee, you're going to have to get behind him. Now, there will be a significant portion of people who say, well, I'm not going to be able to do that, and they just won't participate this year, and that's fine. And then you'll have to figure out a way to make that up somewhere else. But in the meantime, the Democrats, they're going to unite pretty quickly as soon as Hillary Clinton's very clearly the nominee.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. As soon as she is the nominee, very could happen in maybe a week or so, and then Bernie Sanders and then Elizabeth Warren. We talked about that. But regarding that, there's the other side of that coin where if Donald Trump shows up at the convention, first of all, I think he's going to get to 1237 before the convention. But if he shows up there with 1150, whatever, 1200, and they go and they do this and it ends up going to someone else, then you have the opposite side of that coin where the people who said, hey, our vote, we voted for Donald Trump. He came there with the most votes, the most delegates, and the most contests won, states won, and he's not going to be the nominee. We're not going to vote for the person that you guys are putting up. The GOP is in a very, very bad place. It's a pickle, in baseball. They're back and forth, back and forth. At some point, Reince needs to step up and say one or the other, not Stretch Armstrong anymore.
How can he do that?
Just pick one.
That's not his job.
Well, yeah, well, it
would be terrible.
Because they're the ones who are going to go to the
That Reince should say pick one or the other?
No. Yes, he should focus the GOP.
Who should he tag out?
Yeah, we're going to go. This is what it's going to be. Stop fighting back and forth. We're going to go this. Here's one way to get over the 1237. Pick John Kasich as your running mate or Marco Rubio as your running mate and grab those delegates. Because that would essentially lock it up.
Yeah, but they have to say yes.
Right.
And that's tough.
Right.
I mean, you know, Rubio does not like Trump. I mean, I said no news. And Kasich, as Kimberly pointed out, has said he won't do it. Now, I think Charles Krauthammer pointed out to me the other day, 150 delegates Ohio, and that might be the difference between whatever Trump brings to the convention and 1237. So, I mean, that's a possibility. But you know what? I just think that it's a pipe dream if you think the Republican Party is somehow going to go, we're back together.
Well, if it's one of those two who are more establishment, maybe then some of those people who said, I couldn't vote for him, well, I got the vice president on the ticket, too. I like Rubio, or I like Kasich.
How do you think a real conservative, right? So Cruz, he's not going to, you said he just has no nickname for Kasich. He's got a nickname for Cruz, and he keeps using it. I think it's quite funny.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be a VP.
You know, I don't think so either.
No.
And that's the candidate of people who say they're real conservatives.
He's calling Trump names, too. He's calling him a phony. He's, like, made a lot of comments about him, and that fair is fair. But, yeah, there doesn't seem to be a lot of love there, and then he has to think, who can he get to help bring some, cohesion to the party, some fun, some positive movement. It's going to see how many donors are still staying behind their person and who wants to be VP and who might consider Secretary of State.